screw in school, because actually you don't want people coming out of lesson to go and get a condom. You don't want condoms blown up all around the school, because some young people will do that.
Yeah.
And if you put it on provision 3:30 till 4:30, most young people just want to get home. So it's a balance of when you do it and how it's done and where it's done and how it's promoted, because again, it's about the promotion, it would be through posters, for the TV screens, the rest of it. But certainly, we did engage Alison Mole last year, who was our sexual health nurse, who was coming doing drop-ins for it. But that again has been pulled back by the NHS because they've cut the funding. That again was there for people to drop in to talk to someone about. So we're looking at different ways of supporting. But coming down to legal responsibilities, anybody under 16 who's involved in sexual activity, I would expect the parents to be informed, no matter how old they are, either by them or by us. And I would always go for the procedure of saying, do your parents know? Because obviously sometimes you get the odd teenage pregnancy, and we've been very lucky, we've only had 2 in the school that I know of. 2 too many, but we've had 2. And they would say, we're pregnant, we want some support. Yes, we'll give them the support. Yes, we'll allow them to whatever support they need and take them down to the One Life Centre and the rest of it. But they would always have to talk to their parents, or the school would talk to their parents the next day.
What support is, what other support is available for students?
In terms of?
Like, say, teenage pregnancies?
Well, if someone is pregnant, obviously we offer them support and they go and get guidance and counselling on what they want to do, we take them to the One Life Centre. If the young person decides to abort or to more than last a pill, I think that's their choice, but their parents must be involved in that discussion.
Yeah.
If they decide to keep the child, then they would move on to the teenage pregnancy team, which is provided by the local authority. So that teenage pregnancy team then would stay with that student all the way through the pregnancy and through the first year of having the baby, to make sure the education is continued and they stay engaged in education. So it's quite extensive support for teenage mothers. Unfortunately, there's very limited support for teenage dads.
Yeah.
And so again, yes, it has a major effect on the teenage mother, because she's the one who's got to give birth to her, but also if they are staying together and they are committed to each other, I believe that we need to look more at how we support teenage dads as well, so they can be good parents together. You know, it may have been a mistake to get pregnant, but the child isn't a mistake when it's born, and therefore it needs 2 good parents. We can keep them together and work together. That's, I think, a positive approach. Ultimately, what we want to do is reduce the number of teenage pregnancies, and Hartlepool is one of the highest pregnancy rates in the country. Teenage pregnancy rate, or Cleveland has. And so therefore the addressing that's quite urgent, is quite important. But the more provision of CCAR, provision of sexual activity provision, sex education, and we've now got the sex education class, which we should have had this year for PSHE or Cooking Enrichment Day. If not, you will do, because it's happening this year, and they should be happening more and more as we go through, because that's what I believe that we do, is we educate people. We don't expect them to go and find it out for themselves.
Although this is quite a controversial issue, within the media there have been frequently examples of schools who provided contraception for students. As our head teacher, what is your viewpoint on this?
I think I've said that enough.
Yeah.
As long as it's controlled, as long as parents, it's confidential.
Yeah.
But my view is, if you're engaging in sexual activity, your parents should know about it. I think if, personally, I think you should stop and not do anything till you've got your life sorted and move on with your life, and those things can wait till you're older. But I'd rather keep young people safe. I'd rather avoid pregnancies and sexual health issues. I'd rather help young people to understand what they're doing and the consequences of that, because in my previous schools we had the Very Clear programme. We had 10 of the babies that actually cry all night and keep you awake, and that's the older babies, and container that does nothing but put people off, and boys and girls took part in that programme, to put them off getting pregnant early, because it was one thing that put stops it. When they realise they actually don't get any sleep for a week, and they don't get the rest they think they can't just put the baby down. So it's that form of education I mean. In terms of providing provision, if someone's determined enough to have sex, they should take responsibility for that. They should go and get the condoms or other forms of contraception. They can always go and buy it. They can always go into toilets all over the country and buy them out of vending machines. But actually, some people just might need that support in college, and it's about how we do that safely and properly.
And every year, worldwide, 19 million new STD infections are reported. And even more alarming is that nearly 50% of these new cases happen to young people between the ages of 15 and 24. How does our school try and combat this issue? issue within our local community?
Well, we don't do it, but we're starting to. We're starting to address that from all the things I've explained. I think when I was your age, the big thing was AIDS. AIDS was huge. In the late 80s, early 90s, it blew. And the TVs, the publicity around AIDS was huge. That disappeared over time. And I think it's a national issue they need to address. It's a national thing they can do. The AIDS adverts, I don't think you've ever seen the original AIDS adverts, and well worth looking at if you can get them on the web, you get them on YouTube. They were very hard hitting and factual about catching AIDS. And I think the government need to take that in hand, and they need to do that, because we could do a little bit in school, but it's not going to change Hartlepool, it's not going to change the town. As a teacher, I sit on committees around the town, within the health service, within child wellbeing groups. I sit with other secondary heads, we talk and we promote and we put the programmes into which are offered. We can only offer the small things. What's got to happen is some central or local government to actually do bigger things.
Okay. A few years ago, a bill which is going to make sex education compulsory when secondary education was scrapped. Do you believe this is the right decision?
I don't think you can make sex education compulsory, because there's no such thing as a teacher who's trained in sex education. It's like saying you've got to teach Urdu, but we have no teachers to teach Urdu.
Okay.
But I do believe sex education should happen in school. The problem is a teacher the best person to teach young people about sex? If you think about the teachers you have, if you think about all the teachers that you experience, some would get very, very embarrassed talking about sex.
Yeah.
Some would not. Some would cover that very well. Or should it be someone who's actually got the understanding, knowledge and experience, i.e. from the NHS, who can do it very well? The school nursing service in my previous authority in Cleveland, we had a group of 7 school nurses that come and deliver the teenage pregnancy scheme. And they did a day's programme, which is what I'm saying, it should be good for enrichment there, and they can deliver a day every year to each year group, or spread it over a number of days over the year, and we did it in a day. And it starts with a roadshow followed by 6 or 7 small workshops.
Yeah.
And that works very well. And it's better not to be a teacher, because that relationship's different between teacher and student. I think it should be taught. I think it's about who should teach it and what they should teach, because I think it's too important to get wrong. And there are, believe it or not, adults who've got misconceptions about sex and how to get pregnant and why you get pregnant. And if adults have got those misconceptions and pass those misconceptions over, that's only going to cause more problems. So you need properly trained people to deliver that training.
Alright. Okay, so according to statistics, 2% of teenagers are affected by anorexia nervosa, and there's about 1,200 students within this school. Therefore, according to that, 24 students within your school are affected by just this eating disorder. What interventions does your school have in place to combat this? How is this promoted?
We have, it comes down to the support you offer young people. I've dealt with, in my educational career, I think 8 young people who have suffered with anorexia. It's a terrible disease, but it's not something you can promote. It's not something you can, it's very quick, you can jump on bandwagons and stuff. So-and-so's not eating, they've lost a lot of weight, or they've done this, like that. That could just be body changes, because teenagers' bodies change so rapidly, and you will know that, okay? It's only when you get to my age when it starts to know when you need to do some exercise. It's very difficult to judge, it's very hard to judge. You've got to wait for someone to talk, and all you can do is offer people. With the student welfare officers, with the year leaders, with the counsellors we have on site, with Miss Garth, who is there for emotional health support. And it's about people trusting the staff, knowing they're not going to be judged. But it's not something you can go out and actively say, because if I called you in and said, I think you've got an eating disorder, you're not going to tell me you're out. So it's about how do you support, how do you help, and it's just being vigilant, being supportive, having open doors to parents, having open doors to staff. If you've got that, you can support them. It's one of the hardest diseases to real conditions to support, because only the young person or the person in your group can really say whether they've got a problem.
Yeah, you mentioned open doors, but like I don't feel like there is many open doors. I think we want to talk about things like this. I know none of us have it, but like if someone did, then I wouldn't really know where to go for it.
Okay, so we don't promote that very well.
I don't think so.
No. So the fact is we've got 5 student welfare officers who are there for talking to. We've got Miss Garth, we've got Miss Laidler, we've got to in school, but do you know who they are? So, it's a good point. You're absolutely right. And again, one of the big things I've done since I've been here is I'm trying to remove those doors in the dining room between the school and the young people who've got additional resource provision. Because I don't believe people come to the school to be sat in a classroom on their own. I think they're part of the school. Those staff are employed in those areas. I'm trying to get them into the school main body so people see them and involve them. And you're absolutely right. The student welfare officers should be making people feel welcome, should be making them feel, and they're trained. And people go and talk to them. And if they are trained, and I think it's only until you need it will you know where to go.
Okay.
If you don't need it and you're happy and you go on with your life and there's not really much stress and you get on well with your parents and you can talk to your friends and you can have that conversation with your friends. However minor or small the issue, because it's never a minor issue for a teenager, but they can be relatively small issues, but it's big for you. Does that make sense? If you can talk to your parents or your grandparents or your brothers or sisters or your friends, you'll never look for it here. It's only those people who can't talk to their family, their friends, who will look for it at school, on the whole. And so therefore, until you start looking for that support, you wouldn't know where the support is. The fact is, I know it's there, it's how you promote it. We put the anti-bullying boxes around the Ask It basket around, and we've had a rise in bullying incidents recorded. Now, is that because we've got any more bullying than it was a year ago? No. Well, it is, as we've promoted it, and people are telling us more, which is great. And that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about, but actually, some of that bullying isn't bullying, but the fact is they feel it's bullying, which is great, we can do and we can support.
Yeah.
And then the support will go in the background. And actually, other people who aren't suffering from that don't need to know what's going on, they just need to know that actually it happened to me, I know who I've got to go to. And the first port of call is always the student welfare officer. But we haven't promoted that well enough, and we need to keep that push and keep that promotion going and make sure everybody knows where to turn to.
I think I've already asked that question actually.
Not really. About mental health.
Mental health, yeah.
How would you say?
Mental health again, we have a number of young people in the school who work with mental health agencies. We work with CAMS very effectively. I have a particular concern around CAMS as a national thing.
What's CAMS?
CAMS is Child and Adult Mental Health Service.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. CAMS are the people who are supposed to support you young people if you have an issue. We cannot, as a school, directly refer to CAMS. Any people who can is the doctors and social workers. And the level that CAMS deal with young people is very high level. And they deal with really people who are on the edge. And part of a pilot that we're just about to start being part of, and I can't remember what it's called, and I'll finger it as I'm talking, is about how we can get mental health services into schools more and access to it. We do have a counsellor on site, who's in 1 day a week. I'm looking to increase that to 2 days a week next year. Only got to cater 5 or 6 students at a time, because you can't take any more than that if you need 1 day a week.
Yeah.
But you only get that through referral from your year leader, and that's appropriate because it's not about dropping, it's about if you really need counselling. Miss Garthus, who's a trained counsellor, all student welfare officers are trained counsellors, to a low level, not to a high level. So it depends on the level you're at. In my experience as a teacher, in 16 years, I've had 2 suicides, attempted suicides, like thankfully we caught them, and I've had numbers of students work under CAMS, and the services aren't good enough for young people. But then when you get government cuts, it's very hard to provide it. We can't provide it, all we can do is offer the signposts, and what we do is signpost people to services. But I'm very keen to get agencies and support mechanisms into the school, because it isn't about someone out of labour being mad, it's stress. How do you deal with your stress of your exams? How do you deal with your stress? Because there's an expectation. I hope we're ratcheting up the expectation on you and your qualifications. So if we're saying to you we expect you to get A's or A stars, that's the stress we're putting on you. It's not stress I want to put on you to cause damage to your health. What we've got to do is manage that stress, and so therefore there's a certain cycle we need to make sure we close that cycle, so we've got someone to help and support people who do crack, because young people will crack every year, and we've got to make sure we support them. Does that make sense?
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, well then, although we are here to learn, it's nice to know that our school has measures in place to know that not only achieving academically, but also physically and mentally too. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.